On Christmas Eve, an executive gets the news that his mother has died all alone. Sitting by himself on a cold bench, he's surprised by a little girl who offers him comfort and kindness. This innocent gesture awakens something deep inside him and forever changes the course of both their lives. If this story caught your interest, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know what city you're watching from. Now, on with the story. The snow fell slowly on the wooden bench where Ryan Miller sat, motionless for nearly an hour. At 35, he ran a tech company valued in the hundreds of millions, owned apartments in 3 countries, and had a schedule worth more than most people earned in a year. At that moment, however, none of it mattered. Christmas lights twinkled in the trees around the square, families laughed as they passed with colourful shopping bags, and holiday music drifted from nearby stores. The world was celebrating, while Ryan felt his chest sink into a void no amount of money could ever fill. His phone vibrated for the 10th time. He glanced at the screen without really seeing it. More work messages, more demands, more emergencies that always seemed more important than anything else. They always seemed that way. Until that afternoon, when he got the call that changed everything. The nurse's trembling voice on the other end of the line still echoed in his head. His mother had passed away alone, in a hospital bed, while he was stuck in an acquisition meeting. She had tried to call 3 times. He'd seen the calls, but he was presenting numbers to investors. As always, he'd decided it could wait. When he finally answered, it was too late. Ryan closed his eyes, the cold of the snow touching his face. The guilt was heavier than any corporate responsibility he had ever shouldered. He remembered the last time he'd seen his mother, 2 weeks earlier, for a quick lunch between appointments. She'd wanted to talk about Christmas, about spending more time together. He promised to think about it, but they both knew it was a lie. It was always a lie. Work always came first, the numbers, the targets, the achievements. Now sitting on that frozen bench, it all seemed ridiculously empty. A child's voice broke the silence around him. "Are you crying, mister?" Ryan opened his eyes to see a little girl in an oversized pink coat and a wool hat that covered half her face. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her brown eyes watched him with genuine curiosity, free of fear or judgment. She clutched a worn-out teddy bear in one hand. "I'm just tired," he answered, trying to discreetly wipe his face. The girl tilted her head, as if processing his answer and finding it insufficient. Then, without asking, she sat down next to him on the bench. The teddy bear was placed between them, a silent mediator. "My mummy says when we're tired we sleep, but when we cry, it's because we're sad. You're sad, aren't you?" Ryan looked at this little stranger and felt something strange shift inside him. Maybe it was the innocence of the question. Maybe it was that no one else ever asked how he felt. Or maybe it was simply because he was completely shattered and had no strength left to pretend. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I'm very sad." The girl nodded, satisfied. She'd gotten it right. Then she picked up the teddy bear and held it out to Ryan. "Do you want to hold Barnaby? He helps when you're sad. My mummy says hugging someone makes the sadness smaller." Ryan took the bear carefully, as if it were something precious. And maybe it was. In that moment, it was the kindest gesture anyone had shown him in a very long time. "Thank you," he said, his voice cracking slightly. "What's your name?" "Isabella, but everyone calls me Bella. And you?" "Ryan." Bella smiled, revealing 2 missing baby teeth in the front. Then, with the natural ease of a child, she asked, "Why are you so sad, Ryan?" He took a deep breath. He didn't know why he was about to tell a strange child this, but the words came out before he could stop them. "My mum. She passed away today, and I wasn't there when she needed me." Bella was silent for a few seconds, processing the information with a seriousness that was stunning for her age. Then she said something that pierced through all the defenses Ryan had built over the years. "She must have loved you a lot, like, my mummy loves me. My mummy says mums always love their kids, even when their kids do bad things. I think your mum forgave you." Ryan felt the tears return, but this time he didn't try to hide them. This little girl, with her simple, devastating wisdom, had touched something no therapist or counselor had ever reached. "You know what?" Bella continued, swinging her little legs that didn't reach the ground. "If you want, you can borrow my mommy for a little bit. She's really good at giving hugs when we're sad, and she always knows what to say before Ryan could answer. A woman's voice cut through the air, tense and worried. "Isabella, Bella, where are you?" A woman came running through the crowd, her face etched with panic. She wore simple clothes, a coat too thin for the cold, and carried several plastic shopping bags. When she saw her daughter sitting next to Ryan, the relief in her eyes was instantly replaced by something that looked like fear. "Bella, how many times have I told you not to talk to strangers?" The woman pulled the girl up by her arm, quick and protective. Then she looked at Ryan, with a mix of apology and suspicion. "I'm so sorry, sir. She has a habit of, I'm really sorry." Ryan started to get up, wanting to explain, but the woman was already backing away, practically dragging Bella with her. The little girl looked back over her shoulder, waving with her free hand. "Bye, Ryan, don't forget Barnaby." Only then did he realize. He was still holding the teddy bear. He looked at the worn-out toy, at the square that was beginning to empty as night fell, at the Christmas lights that seemed to mock his loneliness. And for the first time in decades, Ryan Miller didn't think about business, meetings, or numbers. He thought only of the kind-eyed little girl who had offered to lend her own mother to a grieving stranger. Something inside him had broken on that bench. But maybe, just maybe, something had also begun to heal. He tucked the bear into his coat pocket and left the square. Tomorrow was Christmas Eve. He would have to arrange the funeral, notify people, handle the arrangements. But for some reason, he couldn't explain, the pain felt a little less suffocating. The guilt was still there, heavy and relentless. But there was something new, too. A tiny light in the middle of the darkness, the memory of a little girl who believed that hugs made sadness smaller. Ryan returned to his empty apartment. He turned on the lights, but the space still felt cold and lifeless. He was 35, with more money than he could ever spend, a successful company, and absolutely no one to share it with. The irony was cruel. He had spent his entire life building an empire, but had forgotten to build a home. He sat on the imported leather sofa and took the bear out of his pocket. Barnaby, the girl had called him. He looked at the simple object, probably bought at a local store, and felt a tightness in his chest. When was the last time someone had offered him something so sincerely? When was the last time someone had cared about his sadness? The phone rang. It was the company's VP asking about the meeting tomorrow. Ryan hung up without answering. For the first time in his career, work could wait. He looked out the window at the illuminated city. Somewhere out there, a woman and her daughter were probably having dinner, getting ready for Christmas. Ordinary people with simple lives, but they had something Ryan never had: human warmth. And then a question began to form in his mind, one that wouldn't leave him alone for the next few days. Who were they? Why did a 6-year-old girl have so much empathy? And why couldn't he stop thinking about them? Ryan didn't know it, but that 5-minute encounter on a park bench had planted a seed that would change everything. Because sometimes, in the midst of our greatest pain, life puts someone in our path, someone who reminds us that there is still goodness in the world, and that maybe, just maybe, there is still hope. The days following the funeral passed in a dense, suffocating fog. Ryan went through all the expected rituals. He accepted condolences from people he barely knew, signed documents, organized the estate. Every gesture was mechanical, empty. At night, alone in the silent apartment, he would hold Barnaby the bear and wonder why this object from a strange child brought him more comfort than any word of sympathy he had heard. On the morning of December 27th, the VP called, insisting that Ryan return to the office. There were urgent decisions to be made, contracts waiting to be signed, anxious investors. Ryan agreed to go back, not because he cared about the business, but because staying home meant sinking even deeper into the void. When he walked into the company's glass-walled skyscraper, everything felt strangely distant. Employees greeted him with cautious reverence, as if he were made of glass and might shatter at any moment. Ryan crossed the marble lobby, stepped into his private elevator, and rode up to the 23rd floor. His office overlooked the entire city, but he barely glanced out the window. He sat in his leather chair, turned on his computer, and tried to focus on his emails. There were hundreds. He read the first, then the second. The words seemed jumbled, meaningless. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, trying to regain the focus that had always defined him. That's when he heard voices in the hallway. "Watch the cart, you're going to hit the wall." "Sorry, Ms. Marcia, it's just heavy today." Ryan recognized that voice. His heart leaped before he even processed why. He stood up and walked to the door, opening it slowly. In the hallway, two women in uniforms were pushing cleaning carts. One was older, with grey hair pulled into a bun. The other, it was her, Bella's mother. Ryan froze. The woman wore the blue uniform of the cleaning crew, her brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She looked to be in her early 30s, maybe younger. Her face was tired, with dark circles under her eyes, but it was the same face he had seen in the park. She didn't notice him, busy organizing supplies on her cart. "Excuse me," he said, his voice louder than he intended. "Did he die?" Two women turned. The older one stepped forward automatically, protectively. But it was the other woman's reaction that shook Ryan. She went pale. Her eyes widened in pure panic. She brought a hand to her mouth, as if trying to stifle a cry. "Good morning, Mr. Miller," Ms. Marcia said, maintaining her professionalism. "Did you need something? We can come back later to clean your office." Ryan barely heard her. He was staring at Bella's mother, who now lowered her eyes to the floor, her shoulders tense. "No, I just wanted—" He trailed off, realizing how strange his words sounded. "What's your name?" The question landed like a bomb in the silent hallway. Ms. Marcia frowned, confused. The other woman kept staring at the floor, but Ryan saw her hands tremble. "This is Patricia, sir," Ms. Marcia answered, her tone slightly defensive. "She's worked here for 3 years, very responsible, never misses a day." Patricia. The name burned itself into Ryan's mind like a brand on wood. "I see," he murmured. He wanted to say more, to explain about the park, to ask about Bella, to thank her. But the words wouldn't come. "Thank you. You can carry on." He stepped back into his office and closed the door, his heart pounding. On the other side he heard muffled whispers, and then the sound of the cart rolling away down the hall. Ryan leaned against the door and closed his eyes. She worked here. For 3 years she had walked these halls, cleaned these offices, existed in the same space as him, and Ryan had never seen her, never noticed. To him, as to most of the executives, the cleaning staff was invisible, silent ghosts who appeared after hours and disappeared before anyone important arrived. But now, he saw her, and he couldn't stop thinking about her or her daughter, or the fact that this woman probably earned in a month what he spent on a single dinner. Over the next few days, Ryan tried to approach her. He left his office door open at times when he knew the cleaning crew would pass. He made excuses to stay late. But Patricia seemed to have developed a sixth sense for avoiding him. When he appeared, she vanished. She switched floors, started coming in earlier, used side corridors. Ms. Marcia, sensing the situation, confronted Ryan one afternoon. "Mr. Miller, with all due respect, Patricia is very nervous. She thinks she did something wrong, that you're unhappy with her work. Please, if there's a problem, speak to me directly." Ryan felt shame burn his face. "There's no problem at all. Her work it's excellent. I just wanted to talk to her." "Talk?" Ms. Marcia raised an eyebrow. "About what?" He didn't know how to answer. How could he explain that he'd met her daughter in a park, that the little girl had offered him comfort when he needed it most, that he couldn't get that moment out of his head? It would sound strange, inappropriate, even dangerous. "Never mind," he said, defeated. But he couldn't let it go. That night, Ryan stayed late at the office, pretending to review documents. When the clock struck 8, he heard the familiar sound of the cleaning cart. He waited. The door opened slowly and Patricia entered, clearly not expecting to find him there. "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. I didn't know you were still. I'll come back later." "Patricia, wait." Ryan stood up but kept his distance, trying not to frighten her. "Please, I just want to talk for a minute." She stopped in the doorway, as tense as an animal about to bolt. "If I did something wrong with my work—" "It's not about your work." He took a deep breath. "It's about your daughter, Isabella." The change in her face was instantaneous. Fear morphed into absolute panic. "What did she do? Did she bother you?" "I've already talked to her about not talking to strangers. I swear She didn't bother me," Ryan interrupted, his voice softening. "Quite the opposite. She helped me a lot." Patricia blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" Ryan told her about that afternoon in the park, about losing his mother, about the despair he felt, about how Bella had appeared out of nowhere and offered to lend him her own mother for comfort, about the teddy bear he still kept in his desk drawer. As he spoke, he saw Patricia's expression change. The fear gave way to surprise, then to something like understanding. When he finished, she was silent for a long moment. "That's just how she is," Patricia said finally, her voice low. "Ever since she was little. She has a heart that's too big for her chest. She's always offering her things. To everyone." "The bear," Ryan began. "You can keep it," she cut him off, "if it helps you. But it's hers. Bella has others, and she'd be happy to know she helped someone." Patricia glanced at the clock on the wall. "I need to finish cleaning. I have another job after this." "Another job?" She gave a humorless laugh. "2 jobs, Mr. Miller. It's how we get by." Ryan felt the weight of those words. While he worried about multi-million-dollar acquisitions, this woman worked 2 jobs just to pay the bills. And she was still raising a daughter who had more kindness in her little finger than most adults had in their entire bodies. Can I meet her again, to return the bear in person?" Patricia's answer was swift and firm. "No." "Why?" "Because it's not a good idea." She gripped the cleaning cart tightly. "You're my boss. You live in a different world from us. Bella is just a kid and doesn't understand these things. If she starts to get attached, she'll be hurt when she realizes we're not part of your life." "But—" "Excuse me, Mr. Miller, I have to work." Patricia entered the office and began emptying the trash cans and wiping down surfaces with quick, precise movements. Ryan stood there, feeling lost. He wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. What exactly were his intentions? To befriend a 6-year-old? That would sound strange coming from any adult, let alone a multimillionaire CEO. But there was something about that girl, about that family, that touched parts of Ryan he didn't even know existed. In the days that followed, he didn't try to approach her directly again, but he started to watch. He paid attention to the employees who had once been invisible. He learned names, faces, stories. He found out that Patricia arrived at 5 in the morning and left at 2 in the afternoon to rush to her second job at a restaurant. He found out she lived in a distant neighborhood, took 2 buses to get to work, and never missed a day, even when she was sick. And he discovered something else, the quiet prejudice, the cruel jokes, the constant disrespect aimed at the cleaning staff. In a board meeting, he heard one of the VPs make a humiliating comment about the riffraff who clean our bathrooms. Ryan felt anger boil inside him. "Watch what you say, Austin," his voice cut across the room. "Those people work harder in 1 day than you do in a month." The silence was heavy and awkward. Austin tried to laugh it off, to turn it into a joke, but Ryan didn't smile. Something was changing in him, and the more he changed, the more distant he felt from the world he had built. A week after their encounter in the office, Ryan made a decision. If Patricia wouldn't let him get close directly, he would find another way. He bought a small, colorful notebook and drew something simple inside. A man on a park bench, a little girl beside him, a teddy bear between them. Underneath he wrote, "Thank you for reminding me that goodness still exists." He found out which school Bella attended, a public school near Patricia's home, and waited outside at dismissal. When he saw the girl emerge, holding hands with an older woman who must have been her grandmother, he approached quickly. "Hi, Bella," he said. The girl looked up, and her whole face lit up. "Ryan, you came to see me." Before the grandmother could react, Ryan handed her the notebook. "A gift, but it's a secret, okay, just between us." He walked away quickly without waiting for a response. On the way back to his car, he felt strangely light. It was a small gesture, maybe inappropriate, but it meant something. What Ryan didn't know was that this simple act was about to trigger consequences that none of them could have foreseen. Because when Patricia found that notebook in her daughter's backpack, she would have to make an impossible choice. Trust the man who dominated her workplace, or protect her daughter from the cruel world that had always kept them on the outside. And the answer she chose would change everything. Patricia found the notebook that same evening while helping Bella organize her backpack for the next day. The girl was in the bath, singing a song from school, and Patricia was taking the opportunity to check for notes from the teacher or homework assignments. When she saw the new notebook, too colorful to be a school supply, her stomach tightened. She opened it slowly. The drawing was simple, almost childlike, but unmistakable. A park bench, two figures sitting, a teddy bear between them. The message underneath made her sit down heavily on the narrow bed. "Thank you for reminding me that goodness still exists." Patricia's hands trembled. Anger and fear swirled inside her in a painful confusion. He had sought out her daughter. He had gone to her school. He had given her a gift without permission. He had crossed every boundary she had tried to set. When Bella came out of the bath, in her pajamas with her hair still wet, she found her mother holding the notebook with an expression that frightened her. Where did this come from? The joy on Bella's face vanished instantly. "Ryan gave it to me. He said it was a secret, but it's not a bad secret, Mummy. It's a nice present." "You talked to him again?" "He was there when school got out. He just gave me the notebook and left. Grandma Celia saw the whole thing. You can ask her." Patricia closed her eyes, trying to control the storm inside her. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. This man had too much power over her life. He owned the company where she worked. He could fire her with a snap of his fingers. He could make her existence impossible. And now he was invading the only safe space she had, her daughter. "Bella, listen to me very carefully." Patricia held the girl's shoulders firmly, but gently. "This man cannot be your friend. It doesn't matter how nice he seems. It doesn't matter how many gifts he gives you. He lives in a different world from ours, and this won't end well. Do you understand?" Bella's eyes filled with tears. "But he was so sad that day, Mummy. I just wanted to help. Like you taught me. You always say to be kind to people." "I know, sweetie. And you were very kind, but now you need to keep your distance. Promise me?" Bella nodded, silent tears streaming down her face. Patricia hugged her, feeling the weight of the injustice. Her daughter was 6 years old and already had to learn that kindness had limits, that the world wasn't fair, that people from different classes couldn't mix without consequences. That night, Patricia barely slept. The next day, she went to work determined to settle this once and for all. She waited until the lunch hour when she knew the executive floor would be quieter and knocked on Ryan's door. "Come in," his voice came from inside. Patricia opened the door and closed it behind her with more force than she'd intended. Ryan stood up from his desk, surprised, and she saw the same look on his face that Bella had when she was caught doing something wrong. "Patricia, No." She held up a hand, cutting him off. All the anger, fear, and exhaustion of the past few days erupted. "You have no right to do this. You have no right to show up at my daughter's school, to give her gifts without my permission, to invade our lives like this. I just wanted to say thank you." "You don't need to stalk someone to say thank you, Mr. Miller." Her voice was too loud, and Patricia forced herself to lower it. "My daughter cried last night because I had to explain to her that she can't trust strangers, even when they seem nice. She's 6 years old and she's already learning that the world is cruel." Ryan took a step forward, his hands held out in a gesture of peace. "I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I crossed a line. But you have to understand, that day in the park your daughter did something no one else has. She saw me, really saw me, and I can't stop thinking about it." "And what is it you want, exactly?" Patricia crossed her arms, defensive. "To befriend a 6-year-old? To be our savior? To lift us out of poverty with your generosity?" "No, He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "I don't know what I want. I just know that since that day, everything has changed. I look at this company, at this life I've built, and I realize it's empty. Your daughter showed me that in 5 minutes. And that's my problem." Patricia's voice was heavy with years of weariness. You want to solve your existential crisis through my family. You want to use us to feel better about yourself? That's not it. Then what is it? She took a step forward, confronting him. Because where I come from, when a rich man starts paying attention to a poor woman and her daughter, it never ends well. I can't afford to take that risk. I don't have a safety net. I don't have savings. I don't have anything but my job and my daughter. And you can take both of those away from me with a single word. Ryan flinched as if he'd been slapped. You think I would do that? I don't know what you would do. I don't know you. To me, you're just my boss. And now I have to go, because I still have 4 offices to clean before my lunch break is over. She turned to leave, but his voice stopped her. Your husband... Bella mentioned that. Patricia felt tears burn her eyes, but she didn't turn around. He passed away 3 years ago. A work accident on a construction site. He didn't leave any insurance, didn't leave anything. Just debt. That's why I work 2 jobs. That's why my daughter stays with my mother late into the night. That's why I can't take risks with powerful men who show up out of nowhere wanting to play savior. The silence that followed was thick and painful. Patricia waited, her hand on the doorknob, giving him one last chance to say something that would make a difference. I'm sorry, Ryan said finally, his voice low and genuine. For everything. For invading your privacy, for being insensitive, for not understanding. You're right. I'll keep my distance. Patricia left the office without another word. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall for a moment, trying to catch her breath. She didn't know if she had done the right thing. She only knew that protecting Bella was all that mattered. The following days were strange. Ryan kept his word. He didn't try to approach her, didn't send gifts, didn't show up in unexpected places. But Patricia noticed changes at the company. Small, subtle things. In a surprise all-hands meeting, Ryan announced new policies, a pay raise for all support staff, the creation of a scholarship program for employees' children, the opening of a common area where everyone, regardless of their position, could eat lunch together. I've realized that we've built invisible walls in this company, he said, addressing everyone. Walls that separate people based on job titles, salaries, and roles. As of today, that changes. Everyone here is equally important. Patricia watched from the back of the auditorium with the other cleaning staff. Some looked emotional. Ms. Marcia was crying quietly. But Patricia just felt confused. Was this because of her? Because of Bella? After the meeting, Austin, the VP Ryan had confronted weeks earlier, made a point of walking past Patricia in the hallway. Enjoy the perks while they last, he said under his breath, a cruel smile on his face. These things never last. That night, at her second job, Patricia could barely concentrate. She dropped a tray of glasses, burned her hand on the grill, mixed up orders. The manager reprimanded her for the 3rd time, and she felt the tears coming. She locked herself in the bathroom and cried until she had no strength left. When she got home after midnight, she found Bella awake in the living room waiting for her. Mommy, why are you always so tired? Patricia sat down next to her daughter and pulled her into a hug. Because life is hard sometimes, sweetie. Ryan could help. He's rich. It doesn't work like that, Bella. But why? How could she explain to a 6-year-old that the world was divided between the haves and the have-nots, that accepting help from someone powerful always came with a price? That kindness between different classes was met with suspicion, judgment, even danger. Because it just doesn't, sweetie. Now go to sleep. That night, alone in the narrow bed of her tiny room, Patricia thought about everything Ryan had said, about feeling empty despite having everything, about realizing he had built a meaningless life, and she wondered, just for a weak moment, what it would be like to let someone help, to let someone share the burden. But she pushed the thought away quickly. Dreams like that were dangerous for people like her. What Patricia didn't know was that Ryan wasn't sleeping that night either. He was in his luxury penthouse, looking out at the city, holding Barnaby the bear and making the most radical decision of his life. A decision that would change everything, but would first destroy much of what he had built. Because sometimes to rebuild, you first have to let everything fall apart. The next morning, Ryan called an emergency board meeting. When the executives filed into the conference room, they found him standing by the window, his back to them. There was something different in his posture, a resolve that hadn't been there before. "I'm resigning as CEO," he said without preamble, without turning around. The silence was absolute for 3 seconds. Then chaos. "What?" Austin was the first to react. "Ryan, you can't be serious." "I'm completely serious." He finally turned, facing their shocked expressions. "I'll remain the majority shareholder, but I need someone new in operational leadership. Someone who understands that a company is made of people, not just numbers." "This is insane." Another director slammed his hand on the table. "You built this company from the ground up. You can't just walk away because of—" "What exactly? A midlife crisis?" Ryan smiled humorlessly. "Maybe that's exactly what it is, or maybe I've finally woken up. Either way, my decision is final. I'm going to focus on other projects that matter." The following. Weeks were turbulent. The news leaked to the press. Investors panicked. The stock price dipped temporarily. Ryan appointed a competent director to take his place, a woman who had started as an intern and risen through the ranks on merit and gradually stepped away from day-to-day operations. Patricia watched it all from a distance, still working in the same hallways, but now with a mix of unease and guilt. The changes Ryan had implemented remained. The pay raise appeared on her next paycheck. The scholarship applications opened. The common area was inaugurated with a breakfast where the new CEO and the cleaning staff sat at the same table, but Ryan was no longer there. He had all but disappeared from the company. Ms. Marcia commented as they cleaned together. "They say he's lost his mind, that he's selling everything, giving away money, living like a pauper." Patricia didn't answer, but at night, alone, she thought about it. She thought about him. 2 months after his resignation, Patricia was leaving her second job when she saw a familiar figure sitting on a bench across from the restaurant. Ryan. He was wearing simple clothes, jeans, and a plain jacket. He looked tired, but there was something different in his eyes, something lighter. She stopped, hesitating. She could pretend she hadn't seen him, cross the street, run away as she always did. But she was tired of running. "Here to stalk me again?" she asked, approaching cautiously. Ryan looked up and smiled, a genuine smile with no hidden agenda. "Came to eat. The food here is good. You do good work." "I work 2 jobs, remember? How did you know I work here?" "Ms. Marcia might have mentioned it," he shrugged. "Or maybe I looked it up. I don't know what's appropriate or inappropriate anymore. When it comes to you..." Patricia felt a laugh escape, surprising herself. "At least you're honest. Can I buy you a coffee?" "Just a coffee. No gifts, no invasions, no ulterior motives. Just 2 adults talking." She should say no. Every survival instinct screamed at her to say no. But it was 2 in the morning. She was exhausted, and for the first time in months, someone was seeing her as a person, not an employee. "1 coffee," she agreed, "but I'm paying for my own." They went to a 24-hour diner 3 blocks away. They sat in a cracked, vinyl booth under flickering fluorescent lights. The contrast with Ryan's world was absurd, but he didn't seem to notice or care. "How's Bella?" he asked after they ordered. "Growing. Asking questions I can't answer. Drawing non-stop." Patricia fiddled with the sugar packets on the table. "She asks about you sometimes." "Does she miss her bear?" "She misses you." Ryan was quiet for a moment. "You know what I realized after your daughter talked to me that day? That I've spent 35 years building walls. Between me and other people, between me and real life, between me and everything that mattered. And those walls were made of money, power, success. I thought they were protecting me, but they were just isolating me." "And now?" Patricia studied him carefully. "You tore down the walls, and what did you find?" "Loneliness. A lot of loneliness, but also possibilities. Room to breathe, a chance to start over." The coffee arrived. They drank in silence for a few minutes. Patricia watched this man who had given up everything and wondered what he was looking for. Redemption? Purpose? Or just a way to escape the pain? "Can I ask you a personal question?" Ryan broke the Silence. You can ask. I don't promise to answer. Do you hate me? The question caught her off guard. Patricia thought carefully before answering. No, I'm scared of you. I don't trust you. I get angry with you. But I don't hate you. Why are you scared? Because you could destroy my life without even realizing it. Because I'm invisible to people like you, until I'm not, and then I become either a problem or a project. Because I don't know what you want from me and my daughter. And that terrifies me. Ryan nodded slowly, absorbing every word. Fair. Enough. And what if I said I don't want anything but connection? Friendship? Someone who sees me as a person, not a CEO or a millionaire or any other label? I'd say you're looking in the wrong place. We're from different worlds, Ryan. You can play at being poor, at giving it all up, at starting over. But you'll always have a safety net. I don't. If I lose one of my jobs, we don't eat. If Bella gets sick and I miss work, I get fired. I can't afford to be friends with someone who lives in a different reality than mine. What if I told you I don't live in that reality anymore? He leaned forward. I sold the penthouse. I moved to a regular neighborhood. I'm learning to cook, to take public transportation, to live on less, a lot less. Patricia stared at him, searching for any sign of a lie or delusion. Why? Because I want to know what it's like to be human again. I want to understand what I lost while I was chasing things that don't matter. And yes, maybe it's stupid, maybe it's a privilege to think I can just choose to be poor, but it's the best I can do. And what happens when you get tired of it? When you realize being poor isn't romantic, it's exhausting and humiliating and endless? Then I'll learn another lesson. He took a sip of his coffee. I'm not saying I'm noble or special for doing this, I'm just saying I'm trying. And I'd like to try to get to know you and your daughter. For real, no hidden agendas. Patricia wanted to believe him. She wanted to so badly it hurt. But years of disappointment, of empty promises, of men who said one thing and did another, had built their own defenses. I have to go, she said, finishing her coffee in one gulp. I have to be up in 4 hours. Can I see you again, just to talk? I don't know. She left the diner without looking back. But on the way home on the empty pre-dawn bus, Patricia realized she was smiling, and that scared her more than anything else. In the following weeks, Ryan would appear. Not every day, not invasively, but he was there, outside the restaurant with an extra coffee that he happened to have, in the park near Bella's school, reading a book on the same bench where they first met, in the checkout line at the grocery store where Patricia shopped on Saturdays. They talked, small conversations that grew into bigger ones. He told her about the mother he'd lost, the company he'd built and then abandoned, about discovering that success didn't mean happiness. She talked about the husband who had died too young, about raising a daughter alone, about dreams that were set aside for survival. Bella eventually saw them together. It was a Saturday afternoon in the park. The girl was playing on the playground under her grandmother's watch when she saw Ryan sitting with her mother, talking and laughing. She ran to them with a cry of joy. "Ryan, you came back!" He scooped her up as she leapt into his arms, his face lit up. Patricia watched the scene with a lump in her throat. She saw her daughter's happiness. She saw the genuine tenderness on Ryan's face, and for the first time she let herself think, what if? What if he was sincere? What if it was possible to build something real? What if the world wasn't as divided as it had always seemed? But the universe has a cruel way of answering questions like that. 3 days later, Patricia was called into the company's human resources department. She sat across from the new HR director, a cold woman in an impeccable suit. "Patricia, we need to discuss a delicate situation. It has come to our attention that you are maintaining personal contact with Ryan Miller, the former CEO of this company, and still a majority shareholder." Patricia's blood ran cold. We've just talked a few times. The problem is that this creates a conflict of interest. Other employees might think you're receiving special treatment. Some have already complained. We need to maintain impartiality in the workplace. Are you firing me? No. But we need you to sign a non-fraternization agreement. If you continue to maintain personal contact with Mr. Miller, We will have to consider transferring you to another department, or possibly terminating your employment." Patricia left that office feeling her world crumble. It was happening. Exactly what she had always feared. Ryan had entered her life, and now she was going to pay the price. Patricia didn't tell Ryan anything that day, or the next. She signed the agreement with trembling hands, buried the humiliation deep inside, and went back to work as if nothing had happened. But something inside her had broken. The anger returned, stronger than before, mixed with a profound sadness that kept her awake at night. Ryan noticed the change immediately. She stopped answering his texts. She stopped showing up at the places they used to meet. When he finally managed to catch her outside the restaurant, Patricia faced him with hard eyes. "You need to stop," she said point blank. "What happened?" "I was called into HR. They said our contact creates a conflict of interest, that employees are complaining. I had to sign a paper saying that if I keep seeing you, I could be fired." Ryan's face went pale. "That's absurd. I'll fix this right now." "No!" Patricia grabbed his arm, her grip tight. "You won't do anything. You've done enough. Every time you try to help, you make things worse. Don't you get it? You can resign, you can play at being normal, but you still have power. And that power crushes me. I never wanted... It doesn't matter what you wanted, it matters what happened, and what happened is that now I have to choose between my job and what exactly? A friendship, a possibility? I can't pay my bills with possibilities, Ryan." She walked away before he could answer, leaving him alone on the dark street. Ryan stood there for a long time, feeling the weight of her every word. He had tried to do things differently, to be better, but he was still causing damage. Maybe Patricia had been right all along. Maybe people like them couldn't mix without consequences. But giving up wasn't in his nature. If the company was the problem, then Ryan would remove that obstacle. The next day he met with the board of shareholders and announced he was selling his majority stake, all of it, completely. The news hit like a bombshell. The press speculated about bankruptcy, financial scandals, health problems. Ryan ignored it all and moved forward with the sale. Within weeks he signed the papers. He was no longer the owner, no longer had any power over the company he had built. He thought that would solve the problem. He was wrong. When Patricia found out about the sale, she was furious in a way he had never seen. "Are you insane?" she yelled when he showed up at her door on a Sunday afternoon. "You sold your company because of me? Do you think that makes me feel better? Now I have to carry the guilt of you destroying everything you built." "I didn't destroy anything, I just changed my priorities." "No, you ran away. You're running from everything like a spoiled child who can't get what he wants. First, you ran from the company when it got too hard to deal with your emotions. Now you're selling everything because I said we can't see each other. That's not change, Ryan, it's desperation." The words cut deep because they were true. Ryan knew it, but he didn't know how to fix it, how to prove his intentions were genuine. "What do you want me to do?" he asked, his voice broken. "I want you to leave me alone. I want you to stop blowing up my life with your existential crises. I want to be able to work, raise my daughter, and live without feeling like a pawn in your game of self-discovery." Bella appeared in her bedroom doorway, still in her pajamas, her eyes wide. "Why? Are you guys fighting?" Patricia closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "We're not fighting, sweetie. Ryan was just leaving." "But I don't want him to go." The little girl's voice trembled. "He's our friend. Bella, go to your room." "It's not fair. You always make everyone leave." Her daughter's outburst made Patricia recoil in shock. Bella had never spoken to her like that. The girl had tears streaming down her face, her little fists clenched. "Sweetheart, you made Daddy leave before he left. I saw you. You would fight and you told him he should go away. And now, you're doing it again with Ryan." The words tumbled out in a torrent of stored-up pain. "I know you think you have to be strong and not need anyone, but I need someone. I want to have someone besides you and Grandma." Patricia felt the world spin. Her mother appeared in the doorway from the kitchen, concern etched on her face. Ryan stood motionless, an unwilling witness to a family wound he should never have seen. "Isabella, that's not true," Patricia managed to say, her voice failing. "Your father and I, it was different. It was the same, you push everyone away because you're scared." Bella ran back to her room and slammed the door. The silence that followed was thick and painful. Grandma Celia looked at Ryan with a mixture of compassion and censure. "I think you'd better go, young man." Ryan nodded and turned to leave. At the door he paused. "Patricia, your ex-husband." What did she mean? "It's none of your business." But her voice had no strength. "They fought a lot at the end," Grandma Celia answered for her, her voice tired. "My daughter was exhausted, working too much, and he was frustrated that he couldn't help financially like he wanted. In their last fight before the accident, she said maybe it would be better if he left for a while. 3 days later, he was working a side job on a construction site when—" "Mom, stop!" Patricia interrupted, the tears finally falling. Ryan understood. The guilt Patricia carried wasn't just from being a widow. It was from words she couldn't take back, from a fight she never got to resolve, from having told someone to leave who never came back. "I'm so sorry," he said genuinely. "Go away, Ryan, please." He left, but he didn't go home. He walked aimlessly through the city, processing everything. The layers of pain Patricia carried, her daughter's trauma, the impossible complexity of simply helping without causing more harm. In the following days, he kept his distance, but he kept thinking about how to prove he wasn't just another man she would have to send away, how to show he was willing to stay even when it got hard. The answer came to him unexpectedly. Ryan started looking for a job, a real job, not corporate consulting or an executive position. Something simple, honest. He ended up at a small construction company, doing administrative work. The pay was a fraction of what he used to make. He moved into an even smaller apartment in a more modest neighborhood. For weeks, he didn't contact Patricia, but Grandma Celia saw him. The older woman often picked Bella up from school, and one day she recognized Ryan sitting at a bus stop, his work uniform covered in dust, a lunchbox beside him. She approached him cautiously. "Mr. Miller?" Ryan looked up, surprised. "Miss Celia, how are you?" "I could ask you the same. What are you doing here?" "Heading home from work. I work for a construction company now." The old woman studied him in silence. She saw the calloused hands, the real exhaustion in his eyes, the simple, worn clothes. It wasn't a performance, it was real. "My daughter is suffering," she said finally. "She's not eating, not sleeping. Bella cries every night, apologizing for yelling. This house is falling apart. I never wanted—" "I know, but intentions don't change results." Grandma Celia sighed. "I'm going to give you some unsolicited advice. If you really care about them, prove it, not with grand gestures or dramatic sacrifices. Prove it by being consistent, by being present, by not running away when it gets hard. That's what I'm trying to do. Then keep trying. But give her time. Patricia needs to learn that she can trust again. And that doesn't happen in weeks or months. It could take years." "I have years." The old woman studied him one more time, then nodded. "I'll tell her I saw you. The rest is up to you two." When Grandma Celia told Patricia about the encounter, about Ryan at the bus stop in a work uniform, something in her daughter's face shifted. The anger began to give way to confusion, then to something more dangerous. Hope. "He's really working at a construction company?" she asked. "Saw it with my own 2 eyes. He looked exhausted, but there was a peace about him, something I didn't see when he was a millionaire." Patricia was quiet for a long time. Then she did something she hadn't done in months. She picked up her phone and sent Ryan a text. "Can we talk?" The reply came in seconds. "Whenever you want." They arranged to meet at the park, the same bench where it all began. It was early, March, the air still cold but with the promise of spring. Ryan arrived first, still in his work clothes. Patricia arrived later, nervous. They sat in silence for a few minutes. "My mum told me," Patricia said finally. "About the job?" "About everything. The bus, the exhaustion, the scraped hands." She looked at him. "Why? Why are you doing this?" "Because I want to know who I am when I strip everything away. The money, the power, the identity. I want to find out if there's anything real underneath all those layers. And I want to prove to you that I'm not just some privileged guy playing at being poor." "And is it working? Are you finding out who you are?" Ryan thought before answering. I'm finding out that I'm weak, that I have a lot to learn, that the world is harder than I ever imagined, but I'm also finding out that I can do it, that I can survive without luxury, and that I'd rather be tired from doing something real than comfortable doing something empty. Patricia felt tears burn her eyes. I'm so scared of you. I know. Not scared of what you might do, scared of what you make me feel. Because I want to believe, I want so badly to believe that you're real, that this is real, but every time I believe in something, I lose it. Ryan reached out his hand slowly. She looked at his calloused hand, so different from the soft hands of the CEO she had known, and trembling she placed her hand in his. I'm not going to promise it won't hurt, he said. I'm not going to promise perfection. I can only promise that I'll stay, even when you tell me to leave again, even when it gets hard, I'll stay. Patricia squeezed his hand, crying now. Bella asks about you. Can I see her? Yes, but slowly. She was hurt by our fight. She needs time. I have all the time in the world. They sat there holding hands as the city moved around them. It was a small, fragile beginning, but it was a beginning. What neither of them knew was that someone was watching them from across the park. Austin, the VP Ryan had humiliated months before, was taking pictures with his phone. A cruel smile on his face. He finally had the ammunition to destroy them both. The following weeks brought a fragile, precious peace. Ryan started visiting Patricia and Bella on the weekends. Simple get-togethers, always with Grandma Celia present. Lunches in the small apartment, walks in the park, afternoons spent drawing with Bella. The little girl slowly began to open up again, though there was still a wariness in her eyes. She watched Ryan carefully, as if testing his permanence. Patricia watched too. She saw how he arrived, tired from his construction job, but never complained. How he played on the floor with Bella without caring about his dirty clothes. How he helped with the dishes after lunch and talked with Grandma Celia about recipes and the price of groceries. He was so different from the arrogant CEO she had imagined that it sometimes felt unreal. One Saturday afternoon, while Bella napped on the sofa after a full day of playing, Ryan and Patricia were talking on the apartment's small balcony. How's the construction job? She asked. Honest, hard, real. He smiled. Yesterday I carried bags of cement all day. I thought I was going to pass out. But there's something satisfying about physical labor, you know? Seeing the concrete result of your effort. Do your co-workers know who you used to be? A few found out. Most don't care. To them, I'm just the new guy who still doesn't know how to hold a shovel right. He laughed. It's liberating to just be Ryan, not the ex-CEO, not the millionaire, just me. Patricia looked at his hands, now covered in calluses and small cuts. A worker's hands. You don't miss it? The old life? The comfort? Sometimes. But I don't miss the loneliness, the emptiness. Looking around and realizing I was surrounded by people but completely alone. He looked at her. I'd rather be here in this small apartment, eating simple food but feeling like I belong to something real. Before Patricia could reply, her phone rang. It was Ms. Marcia, her supervisor at the company. Patricia, I need to warn you about something. The woman's voice was tense. Austin has been showing pictures of you and Ryan all over the company. He's saying you got favors by seducing the former CEO. The board is calling you in for a meeting on Monday. Patricia's blood ran cold. What pictures? Of you two in the park holding hands. He's claiming you've been having an affair for months, that your raises and benefits were because of it. But I never got a promotion. I'm still in the same job. I know. But a well-told lie is more convincing than a poorly explained truth. I'm just warning you so you can be prepared. When Patricia hung up, she was shaking. Ryan saw it immediately. What's wrong? She told him everything. She saw the anger take over his face, his jaw clenching, his hands balling into fists. I'll handle this. I'll sue Austin. I'll go to the company. No. Patricia grabbed his arm. That's exactly what he wants. For you to show up and defend me. Proving that we really are involved, that I really am getting favors. Don't you see? Anything you do will make it worse. So what do we do? I'm going to that meeting alone. I'll explain the truth, and if they fire me, I'll find another job. That's not fair. Welcome to my world, Ryan, where things are rarely fair. On Monday, Patricia walked into the conference room with her head held high, though her hands were trembling. 3 directors were waiting for her, including Austin, who wore a smug smile. Patricia, these photos show you in an intimate setting with Ryan Miller, a former majority shareholder of this company, the HR director began, pushing printed images across the table. This is in direct violation of the agreement you signed. Ryan and I are friends, nothing more, and he no longer has any connection to this company. Friends? Austin leaned forward. Friends don't hold hands in romantic parks. Admit it, Patricia. You used your charms to get ahead. What advantages? Patricia felt her anger rise. I'm still making the same miserable wage. I'm still cleaning the same toilets. The only difference is that now I have to put up with men like you spreading lies about me. Watch your tone, the director warned. No, you know what? I won't. Patricia stood up. You want to fire me? Go ahead. But know that I'm being targeted because a powerful man got his ego bruised and decided to take revenge on me. And you're letting him. She walked out of the room before they could respond, her heart pounding. In the hallway, she leaned against the wall, trying to catch her breath. Ms. Marcia appeared beside her. You were brave. In there. I was stupid. I'm going to be fired. Maybe, but at least you didn't back down. Patricia spent the rest of the day working on autopilot, waiting for the summons to receive her termination notice, but it never came. At the end of her shift, the HR director called her in again. We've decided not to take action at this time, but you are on notice. Any slip-up, any hint of favoritism, and you will be terminated immediately. Understood? Patricia nodded and left. It wasn't a victory, but it wasn't a defeat either. It was just one more threat hanging over her head. When she told Ryan that night over the phone, he was furious all over again. This is workplace harassment. It's persecution. It's the reality of being poor and a woman. I'm used to it. But you shouldn't be. No one should be. Ryan, Patricia sighed, exhausted. I need to ask you for something. I need us to take a break. A few weeks, maybe months, until things cool down. What? No. Please. Every time we're seen together, it's used against me. I need my job. I can't risk it. Then I'll go there and tell them the truth, that we're friends, that there was never anything inappropriate, and you think they'll believe you, a multi-millionaire ex-CEO and a cleaning lady. They'll think either I'm extorting you or you're using your power over me. There's no good narrative for us, Ryan, not in this world. The silence on the line was long and painful. I love you, Ryan said suddenly, the words tumbling out before he could stop them. Patricia felt her heart stop. What? I love you. I love your strength, your resilience, the way you never give up, even when the world knocks you down. I love how you're a mother, how you care for Bella, how you protect the people you love. And I know I have no right to say this now, that it's the worst possible time, but I need you to know. Because if we're going to be apart, I need you to understand that it's not giving up, it's strategy. Patricia was crying now silently. That just makes everything harder. I know. I'm sorry. I love you too, and that terrifies me. They stayed on the line in silence, connected only by the phone, both crying, both scared, both. I'll respect what you asked for, Ryan said finally. I'll stay away, but I'm not giving up on you guys. I'll just wait. What if the wait is years? Then I'll wait for years. They said goodbye, and Patricia collapsed onto her bed, sobbing. Grandma Celia came into the room and sat beside her, stroking her hair like she did when she was a child. He's a good man, the old woman said softly. I know, Mom. That's why it hurts so much. The following weeks were torture. Ryan kept his word and stayed away. He didn't text, didn't show up at their usual spots, didn't try to make contact. But Patricia knew he was out there somewhere in the city, carrying bags of cement and thinking of her. Bella felt his absence immediately. Where's Ryan? She asked every night. He's busy, sweetie. Did he leave like Daddy did? The question pierced Patricia's heart. No, he just needs to stay away for a little while. Is it my fault? Because of the fight? No, sweetie, never your fault. But Bella didn't believe her. She started having nightmares. She drew lonely figures, people separated by insurmountable walls. She stopped eating properly. At school, her teacher sent a note saying she was isolating herself from her classmates. Patricia watched her daughter wither emotionally and felt helpless. She was trying to protect her, but the protection was causing as much damage as the threat. A month after they stopped seeing each other, Patricia came home to find Bella in bed, shaking with a high fever. The girl had been sick for 2 days, but that night it took a drastic turn for the worse. Grandma Celia was in a panic. Her fever is too high. We need to get her to the hospital. They took a cab because it was faster than waiting for an ambulance. At the emergency room, doctors whisked Bella away immediately. A serious infection, they said. She needed to be admitted. Patricia sat in the cold hospital corridor, her head in her hands. She didn't have health insurance. The cost of the hospital stay would wipe out her entire savings. But that didn't matter. All that mattered was Bella getting better. Her phone buzzed with a text. It was from her company. Due to budget cuts, her position was being eliminated, effective immediately. Patricia started to laugh. A humorless, hysterical laugh. In one day, she had lost her job and almost lost her daughter. The universe really did have a cruel sense of humor. Patricia? She looked up and saw Ryan standing in front of her, his work uniform still dirty, his face etched with worry. Grandma Celia must have called him. She's been admitted, Patricia said, her voice lifeless. And I've been fired. So if you came here to offer money, you can keep it. I'm not taking your charity. I didn't come to offer money. He sat down next to her. I came to stay, if you'll let me. Patricia looked at this man she loved and couldn't have. She looked at the hospital corridor where her daughter was fighting a fever that wouldn't break. She looked at the future that was crumbling before her eyes. And finally, after a lifetime of being strong, she allowed herself to break. She fell into Ryan's arms and cried until she had no tears left, and he stayed, holding her as the world fell apart around them. Bella was in the hospital for 5 days. 5 days of IV antibiotics, of a fever that rose and fell, of a 6-year-old girl fighting an infection the doctors struggled to identify. Patricia never once left the hospital. She slept in an uncomfortable chair by the bed, ate whatever Grandma Celia brought, and watched her daughter's every breath, terrified it would stop. Ryan was there too. Not all the time, because he had to work, but he came every evening after his shift and stayed until the early morning. He brought Patricia hot food, spoke quietly to Bella when she was awake, and distracted the little girl with stories and drawings. He never mentioned money, never offered to pay the bills. He was just present. On the 3rd night, when Bella was finally sleeping without a fever, Patricia and Ryan stepped out into the hallway. They sat on the cold floor, leaning against the wall, exhausted. "Thank you for staying," she said quietly. "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You didn't have to." "Patricia." He turned to face her. "When are you going to understand that I'm not here out of obligation? I'm here because I love you guys, because I want to be here, because I can't imagine being anywhere else." She closed her eyes, silent tears streaming down her face. "I lost my job. I have no way to pay for the hospital. I can't make rent next month. I'm drowning, and you're tying yourself to a sinking ship." "You're not a sinking ship. You're the strongest person I've ever met." "Strong?" She gave a humorless laugh. "I'm completely broken, Ryan. I have no strength left." "Then let me carry you for a while, just like you've been carrying Bella alone all these years. Let me help." "And how exactly are you going to help? You work in construction. You make almost as little as I did." Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that took her completely by surprise. "I have money saved, a lot, from the sale of the company. I invested most of it, but I kept enough for emergencies, for things that matter." Patricia felt anger burn in her chest. So this was all a lie? You playing poor while you had millions stashed away? "It wasn't playing. Everything I went through was real. The work, the exhaustion, the transformation. Just because I have a safety net doesn't mean the experience was fake, but it means you can walk away whenever you want. I can't. This is my real life with no safety net, no plan B. I know. And that's exactly why I want to use this money to help you and Bella. Let me pay for the hospital. Let me help with rent until you find another job, not as charity, but as someone who cares. Patricia wanted to refuse. Every fiber of her being screamed to refuse. But she looked through the glass door of the room and saw Bella sleeping, still pale, still fragile, and she realized her pride wasn't worth more than her daughter's health. Just the hospital, she said finally, and I'm paying you back, every single cent. You don't have to. I'm paying you back. It's not negotiable. Ryan nodded, understanding that she needed this to maintain her dignity. Bella was discharged on the 6th day. She came home still weak, but the fever was gone, and the doctors assured them she would make a full recovery. Patricia carried her daughter into the apartment, feeling the equal weight of gratitude and debt. In the days that followed while caring for Bella at home, Patricia searched frantically for a job, but word of her firing had spread. Austin had made sure everyone knew about the scandal with Ryan. Every interview ended the same way, initial interest followed by a cold rejection once they checked her references. After 3 weeks, the rent money was running out. Grandma Celia offered her savings, but they were meager. Patricia was sitting at the kitchen table calculating how much time they had before they were evicted when the phone rang. It was an unknown number, a professional female voice. "Ms. Patricia, my name is Jessica Reed. I'm an attorney. I'd like to speak with you about a case of workplace harassment and defamation. I don't have money for a lawyer. I'm not asking for money. I'm offering my services pro bono. I saw your case on social media, and I believe we have a strong lawsuit against your former employer and against Austin Davis personally." Patricia frowned. "What social media?" There was a pause. "You haven't seen it? Someone posted your story online. It's going viral." With trembling hands, Patricia opened her social media apps. There it was, a detailed post about her situation, the photos Austin had spread, the unjust firing, her sick daughter, and thousands of comments from outraged people, offering support, sharing similar stories, demanding justice. "Who posted this?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "The original post is anonymous, but based on the level of detail and the photos included, I suspect it was someone close to you." Ryan. It had to be Ryan. Patricia found him that evening outside the construction site. He knew she would be there from the guilty look on his face. "You had no right," she said without preamble. "I know. You exposed my life, my humiliation to millions of people. I know, and if you never want to speak to me again, I'll understand. But I couldn't stand by and watch you suffer for something I caused. You didn't cause it. Austin caused it. The system caused it. You just tried to be my friend, and I turned it into a problem." Ryan took a step forward. "Patricia, look at me. You didn't turn anything into a problem. The world is cruel to people who try to cross barriers that shouldn't exist. But sometimes, to break those barriers, you have to make noise. You have to expose the injustice. And now what? Now everyone knows. So I'm the pitiful cleaning lady who lost her job. How am I supposed to get a job like that out of people's pity? It's not pity, it's outrage, and it's already getting results. 3 companies called me today offering you a job. A restaurant chain wants to hire you as a supervisor. A cleaning company is offering you a partnership, and there's an online movement to sue your former company." Patricia sat down on a nearby ledge, processing it all. Part of her was furious at the invasion of her privacy, but another part, the part that was tired of, fighting alone, felt something like hope. "The lawyer who called me, is she for real? One of the best labor attorneys in the country, and she's willing to represent you for free because she believes in the case. Why? Why would she do that? Because not everyone is driven by money. Some people still believe in justice." In the following days, Patricia's story gained momentum. Journalists wanted to interview her. The company issued a statement defending the termination, but the public wasn't buying it. Clients started canceling contracts. Employees began speaking out about other cases of abuse. Austin, cornered, gave an interview trying to defend himself. He called Patricia an opportunist, Ryan a manipulator, but his words only added fuel to the fire. The lawyer, Jessica Reed, worked quickly. She gathered evidence, testimonies, documents. She built a solid case not just for wrongful termination, but for systematic persecution, defamation, and workplace harassment. "We can sue for substantial punitive damages," she explained in a meeting at Patricia's small apartment, "and I'm confident we'll win." But Patricia hesitated. "Suing means years of legal battles. It means exposing my life even more. It means saying that you matter," Ryan interrupted gently. "That your dignity is worth something. That people like Austin can't just destroy lives without consequences." Bella, who was drawing at the table, looked up. "Are you going to fight the mean man, Mommy?" Patricia looked at her daughter, at Ryan, at Grandma Celia watching from the kitchen, at the lawyer offering her expertise for free. All these people believed in her. Maybe it was time to believe in herself. "We're suing," she decided. The lawsuit was filed the following week. The reaction was immediate and fierce. The company hired the best lawyers. Austin began an even more aggressive smear campaign, trying to paint Patricia as a gold digger. But something unexpected happened. Other women started coming forward, former and current employees, all with similar stories of harassment, persecution, and abuse of power. What began as the case of one unjustly fired cleaning lady turned into a major investigation into the company's toxic culture. Ryan followed it all closely, always present, always supportive, but letting Patricia take the lead. She was becoming the voice for dozens of silenced women. It was both terrifying and empowering. 3 months after the lawsuit began, Patricia was at her new job. The restaurant chain had kept its promise and hired her as a supervisor, with a decent salary and benefits, when she got a call from Jessica Reed. "They want to settle," the lawyer said, barely able to contain her excitement. "A generous amount, full compensation, and Austin will be removed from the company. It's a victory, Patricia." But when Patricia told Ryan that night, he looked worried. "What is it?" she asked. "I heard something today. Austin isn't going to take this loss lying down. He's planning something. I don't know what, but some of the guys at the construction site work for him on the side. I overheard them talking." "What kind of talk?" "About you. About Bella. About solving the problem once and for all." A chill ran down Patricia's spine. "You think he would?" "I think he's dangerous, and I think we've underestimated how far he's willing to go." That night, Patricia barely slept. She checked the locks on the door 3 times. She had Bella sleep in her room with her, and when she finally drifted off, she had nightmares of shadows and unseen threats. The next morning, when she took Bella to school, she noticed a strange car parked across the street. When she left work, the same car was there. Someone was following her, and Patricia realized, with growing horror, that the fight was far from over. Patricia called Jessica Reed as soon as she realized she was being followed. The lawyer acted fast, hiring her own private investigator who in less than a week uncovered the truth. The man in the car was a PI hired by Austin. His mission was to find anything that could be used against Patricia in the lawsuit, proof of improper behavior, suspicious spending, anything at all. "This is gold for us," Jessica explained, in an urgent meeting. Stalking, attempted intimidation, using private resources to harass a plaintiff. Austin just dug his own grave. They took the evidence to the judge. The reaction was immediate. Austin was subpoenaed to appear in court personally. The company, realizing the magnitude of the problem, rushed to finalize the settlement negotiations. A week later, Patricia sat at the negotiating table with her lawyer on one side and 3 of the company's lawyers on the other. Austin was not present. He had been formally suspended from all executive duties the day before. The proposed settlement was generous: full compensation for punitive damages, back pay for years of uncompensated overtime, a letter of recommendation, and a significant additional sum for pain and suffering. Furthermore, the company committed to implementing strict anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policies with external oversight for 2 years. "And Austin?" Patricia asked. "He's been terminated," the lead counsel replied. "No severance, no benefits, and there is a criminal investigation being opened against him for stalking and misuse of corporate funds. Patricia glanced at Jessica, who gave a discreet nod. It was a fair deal, more than fair. "I have one condition," Patricia said, surprising everyone in the room. "I want part of this settlement to be used to create a support fund for vulnerable employees, for education, medical emergencies, legal aid, and I want it to be managed by employee representatives, not the board." The lawyers looked at each other. "That's unusual." "That's my condition. Take it, or we'll see you in court." After a quick phone consultation with the board, they agreed. When Patricia walked out of that room, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: control over her own life. It wasn't just about the money, though that was important. It was about having her voice heard, her dignity restored, her worth acknowledged. Ryan was waiting in the hallway. He stood up when he saw her, his eyes full of questions. "Did you win?" he asked. "We won," she corrected him. "All of us." He hugged her right there, in the middle of the cold courthouse corridor, and Patricia allowed herself for the first time to believe that maybe things really could work out. The following months brought changes Patricia could barely process. The settlement money allowed her to move out of the small apartment and rent a larger place, still simple but with room for Bella to play, and for Grandma Celia to have her own bedroom. She was able to buy new furniture, proper clothes, and books for her daughter. But the biggest change wasn't material. It was internal. Patricia started taking classes. She used part of the money to enroll in a business administration certificate program. She discovered she had a knack for numbers, for organization, for leadership. At the restaurant where she worked, she was promoted twice in 6 months, not out of favor, not out of pity, but because of her competence. Ryan changed too. He kept working at the construction company, but he started teaching night classes on entrepreneurship at a community college. He used some of his savings to help small businesses in his neighborhood, not as an arrogant investor, but as a patient mentor. They spent time together, but without rushing. Dinners at Patricia's apartment with Bella chattering about school, walks in the park on Sundays, long talks about dreams and fears. It was simple, real, and for the first time in their lives, they both felt whole. Bella blossomed. The girl who had been shy and scared began to open up. She made friends at school. She was in the school play. And most importantly, she stopped being afraid that people would leave. Because Ryan proved, day after day, that staying was a choice he made consciously. A year after their first meeting in the park, on a December afternoon with snow falling softly, Ryan took Patricia and Bella back to the very same bench where it all began. Christmas decorations were everywhere, families passed with shopping bags, and music played from the stores. "Why are we back here?" Patricia asked. "Because there's something I need to say, something I need to do." Ryan knelt in the snow, turning to Bella first. "Isabella, can I ask you a very important question?" The little girl nodded, her eyes wide. "Would you like me to be part of your family, officially? Not as an uncle, not as a friend, but as someone who loves you and your mum and wants to stay forever?" Bella threw herself into his arms. "Yes, yes, yes, yes." Then Ryan turned to Patricia, his eyes shining with unshed tears. He took a small box from his pocket. "Patricia, that day, when Bella offered to lend me her mum, she didn't know she was offering me salvation. You taught me what really matters. You showed me that strength doesn't come from power or money, but from getting up every single day and doing what needs to be done. You taught me how to truly love. I don't want to borrow you. I want to keep you. Forever. Will you marry me?" Patricia looked at this man kneeling in the snow, the ex-CEO who gave up everything to find out who he really was, the construction worker with calloused hands and an open heart, the man who stayed when everyone else had left. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes." He slipped a simple ring on her finger. It wasn't a diamond, it wasn't extravagant. It was a silver band with an inscription on the inside. I stayed. People around them started to applaud. Strangers sharing in their moment of joy in a Christmas-lit square. Bella was jumping up and down, squealing with delight. Grandma Celia, who had been watching from a distance, dabbed at her tears with a handkerchief. That night, they gathered in the apartment for a simple dinner filled with love. Patricia looked around the table, her mother, her daughter, the man she loved, and realized she had built something no money could ever buy. A family. A real, imperfect, but profoundly true family. "Mommy," Bella said as they ate, "remember when I offered to lend you to Ryan?" "I remember, sweetie. I don't think he's borrowed anymore. I think we get to keep him forever." Ryan laughed. "You sure do. You're not getting rid of me that easily." After dinner, when Bella was asleep and Grandma Celia was resting in her room, Patricia and Ryan sat on the small balcony, looking out at the illuminated city. "It still feels like a dream sometimes," Patricia confessed, "like I'm going to wake up and find out none of this is real." "It's real. As real as the bills we still have to pay, the problems we'll still face, the fights we're going to have." "How romantic," she laughed. "I'm a realist. It's not going to be perfect. We'll argue about money, about how to raise Bella, about where to live. I'll annoy you and you'll annoy me, but we'll be together, and that's what matters." Patricia rested her head on his shoulder. "You know what's funny? I spent my whole life thinking I had to be strong on my own, that asking for help was a weakness, that trusting someone was dangerous. And now I know that real strength is in letting someone in building something together, in trusting even when you're scared." She looked up at him. "You taught me that. You taught me how to be human again." They sat in silence, just existing in that moment. Two survivors who had found refuge in each other. Two broken people who had come together to form something stronger than either of them had been alone. Inside the apartment, Bella stirred in her sleep and murmured something about snow and a teddy bear. Grandma Celia snored softly in the next room. The world kept spinning outside, with its problems and injustices and hardships. But there, on that small balcony, with the city glowing below and the stars hidden by clouds, Patricia and Ryan were building their own constellation, made not of distant light, but of real presence, of daily choices, of love that was earned, not given. A few months later, they were married in a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Bella was the flower girl in a dress she picked out herself. Ms. Marcia came, bringing the whole old cleaning crew with her. Jessica Reed was there, smiling proudly. Even a few of Ryan's co-workers from the construction site showed up, bringing beer and honest laughter. There was no luxury, no ostentation, but there was joy. The kind of joy that grows from deep roots, not from fireworks that burn bright and then fade. And when Ryan and Patricia exchanged vows, promising not perfection but presence, not ease but effort, not to run when things got hard but to stay and fight together, everyone in the room knew they were witnessing something rare, true love, the kind that survives storms because it was built in the middle of them. Years later, when Bella was a teenager, she asked her mother how it all really began. Patricia smiled, took her daughter's hand and said, "It started on a Christmas afternoon when a 6-year-old girl saw a stranger crying and decided to help. You saved 2 broken hearts that day, sweetie, his and mine." "How?" "By showing me that goodness still exists, that sometimes all someone needs is a hug and the knowledge that they're not alone. You gave." Say that to him, and he paid it forward by giving the same to us. Bella looked at the wedding photo hanging on the wall, 3 people in an embrace, smiling with a happiness that couldn't be faked. "I guess in the end," the girl said, "it wasn't me who helped you guys. It was you who helped each other." And Patricia realized that her daughter, now older and wiser, was right, because salvation doesn't come from one person to another. It comes from the decision of 2 people to save each other together. On Christmas Eve that year, Ryan, Patricia, and Bella returned to the bench in the square. It had become a tradition. They would sit there, watch the families pass by, and remember where they started. "Happy?" Ryan asked Patricia. "Very," she answered. And it was the truth. Not because everything was perfect. There were still bills to pay, problems to solve, hard days, but there was love. There was partnership. There was a family they had chosen to build together. And sometimes that was all anyone ever needed. A 6-year-old girl offering to lend her mother, a broken man accepting her kindness, a tired woman allowing herself to trust again. And all of them together discovering that family isn't about blood or money or perfection. It's about staying, even when it hurts, even when it's hard, even when it would be easier to walk away. It's about choosing every single day to be present. And they chose. Once, twice, 1,000 times. And they would keep choosing. Because finally, after so much searching and so much pain, they had found what they were looking for. Home.